welcome to a special face version of Coleslaw of My Consciousness. I'm mostly doing this one by my face because I was too lazy to edit up a bunch of pictures to my voice this time. So I was like, I'll just record my face and then you can still hear what I have to say, but I don't have to edit a lot of stuff. So this is me being lazy. But I did have a book I wanted to talk about. For this Coleslaw, I wanted to do a book review. I have been listening to a book called Starters by Lissa Price, I believe. I've been listening to it in my car as kind of a driving thing. I love going to and from work and just having like a book on tape. It makes me feel like I'm still getting my reading done without having to always be like immersed in an actual book, and it makes driving feel more productive too. But anyways, Starters. So, intriguing concept, execution overall fairly nice. I also, in this case, since it was a book on tape, particularly enjoyed the narrator. She did a nice job. A little monotone at times, but mostly pretty good. But on to the actual story. So the basic plot or concept is that like within the last year, I believe, of when the novel starts, there was a big war that they call the Spore Wars, and there was some sort of, biological warfare that involved spores of some sort. So instead of other weapons, they used spores, and these spores killed everyone from the age of like 20 to 60, I believe. And also this is a semi-futuristic society, so the maximum age is like 200. So all the kids who are the 20 and under are called starters, and then all of the 60 and older generation are called enders. And the starters basically are not able to work, which was a law that was in place before the Spore Wars and didn't get changed. And so there's all these like now homeless, unclaimed children wandering around trying to survive, basically being squatters, fighting with each other in abandoned buildings, that sort of a thing. Our main character is named Callie, and she has a little brother who's 7 years old, who's named Tyler. And obviously having a 7-year-old brother would have been hard enough to try to support living on the streets. They're those kind of starters. But then also, her brother has a lung disease of some sort. So that makes it difficult too. Anyways, because of all this, they're struggling really hard for money, and she's really worried about him getting sicker and all that kind of thing, and is looking for ways to earn money, and comes across this business called Prime Destinations that basically puts like a microchip in the back of a starter's head, which then allows an ender to have their brain go into the starter's brain, and then they control the starter, and the starter experiences it basically like they were asleep. And so they don't really have any awareness of what the ender is doing, and the ender can borrow it for any period of time. And then they get paid from that. And at first Callie is really hesitant to do this, but does eventually decide to do this, and that's the basic plot. And then adventures happen because her chip malfunctions / gets tampered with, and I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but there's like a plot from her ender trying to change some things politically, and Callie's like, I don't know if I can go along with this, but I was intrigued by the idea of it, just reading sort of that description on the back of the novel. And then at first, the way it was executed, with the malfunction being that Callie was just in control of her body, I was like, oh, wait, this is not what I was expecting from the description of this book. I thought that the malfunction was going to be like, oh, her ender's still in control, but Callie's aware. And I thought that would have been a really interesting take to make on it. Maybe difficult to write, I'm sure, because having a very passive person, because she can't physically actually do anything because someone else is controlling her body, would be kind of a hard perspective to write. But an intriguing challenge nonetheless. But Though I didn't like that it wasn't that aspect, and that Callie was in control and just trying to figure out what her ender wanted from her and if she was willing to do it or not, and all that. I did enjoy as it progressed that Callie was in control of herself, and I was like, okay, I can see how this could work. This works for me. And so overall, I did like this story a lot, and I keep wanting to talk about more spoilery things, so I think I'll cut it at this point to say spoiler time, and we'll go on from there. While Callie is in control of her body, but deciding about the Ender stuff, if she's willing to go along with what the Ender says, she meets this boy named Blake, who's a regular teen, but a rich teen, because there are some starters that still have like rich grandparents and stuff, and Blake happens to be the son of a senator, and then that senator ends up being a person that Callie's Ender is actually trying to assassinate. Callie's Ender had a granddaughter who got involved with Prime Destinations and died, and obviously that could cause some hard feelings and stuff, and there ends up being some bigger plot things going on with Prime Destinations too, where they want to take over all the starters basically and just give Enders into the starters so that the Enders can essentially be living forever and just continue taking starters' bodies, and the starters will essentially have no life at all. And yeah, so Callie's Ender is trying to stop all that from happening. The senator is going to go talk to the president in order to try and get a bill passed so that the starters can work, Prime Destinations being one of the sample places that they can try working out as they're working out a program for it, kind of a thing. And that's why Callie's Ender wants to assassinate him, so that he can't go to Washington and be like, Mr. President, let's do this thing for Prime Destinations and all that. And yeah, and Callie doesn't want to do the assassination part. And then more of the details come out later, and Callie's like, oh my gosh, this is a really terrible plan by Prime Destinations, but at the same time, she doesn't want to assassinate still. She still stands against the killing the whole time. So kudos to Callie for that one. Let's see, what other things. As they're preparing for the assassination attempt, Callie and her Ender kind of have glitches where sometimes the Ender will be in control and sometimes Callie will be. And there's this event that the senator's going to, which is where Callie's Ender plans on assassinating him. And Callie gets invited by Blake, and she ends up going to it because she's in control, and she's like, oh, if I'm in control of me and I'm here, I can ensure that the assassination does not happen, kind of a thing. And as part of that, she ends up having to leave early when her Ender had been in control of her body semi-recently. Before that, she'd gone to the senator's office and upset his secretary and stuff and caused some issues that way. And so the secretary sees Callie there and is like, oh, it's that girl, let's get her out of here. And they call security on her, kind of a thing, and she has to leave. And there's this moment where Callie gets ushered away by this group of other starter friends who are doing the Prime Destination thing too. And they're all like getting shoved into this SUV to go and leave. And then she sees Blake come out and he's holding her shoe. And I had this moment of, we're doing a Cinderella story? Really? What? I was so confused by it. Also, since I was listening to it as a book on tape, I thought this whole section of the assassination was, oh my gosh, this is the climax of the whole novel. What's gonna happen? Is Callie gonna be able to not go through with the assassination? And it was actually like halfway through. So, whatever. I was like, wait a minute, we're only halfway through when my disc ended. I was like, oh, what? I thought we were at the climax, but it's fine. Cinderella and an early climax. But it was still really fun and good. And the way the story goes after that, and her discovering all the added information and things like that, I think worked really well. I did enjoy the whole thing overall. But there were just a few moments of, wait, what? Luckily, I didn't really do a Cinderella thing. Oh, one other thing that I was kind of disappointed in. Super, super spoilers for the ending. So even if you've watched and we're okay with some spoilers, this is like spoilers of the very, very ending of the story. But I want to talk about it. So at the very, very end, as it turns out, Callie finds out that the Blake that she'd been dating was not the real Blake, but that he in fact had also been like her and had had an ender in his brain. He hadn't known it, she hadn't known it, and they hadn't done the usual prime destination thing of we're giving you a full-on beautiful makeover, getting rid of your freckles, scars, etc., making you a beautiful supermodel type looking person. It was just Blake was not Blake. He was being controlled by the owner of Prime Destinations as blackmail to the senator to get the senator to go along with his plan. So again, kudos to Callie for not killing him because he was actually a good guy and didn't want to go through with that plan, but was being blackmailed with his own grandson and didn't have much choice there. But I was kind of disappointed in that ending too. The way that the story had played out up till then, she confronts the owner of Prime Destinations and he escapes. And then she goes and tries to meet Blake after a while. And Blake acts like he doesn't recognize her at that point. And I was like, oh, the old man's in Blake's head now. This is so cool. What's going to happen? And then it was the opposite. And I was like, it would have been so good, though. So good if, like, the senator had been in on it. Like, actually in on it. And then the old man went into Blake to make Callie feel all bereft and lonely. And, like, go away, Callie. You didn't go with our plans. You ruined my plans and all that. But it's not how it worked out. And I was mildly reconciled to it, but at the end it also felt like sequel baiting because she runs into Blake at the end again. She'd been told by the senator not to talk to Blake about what happened because they were just playing it off that he got sick and couldn't remember what had happened for those few weeks. But when she'd first gone to go find Blake, she was like, don't you remember anything? There's this picture of us on your phone. Go look, kind of a thing. And it didn't go anywhere right at that point. But when she meets him again, he's like, I have this picture of us on my phone. I don't remember what we had, but I'd kind of like to try. And she's like, okay. I mean, you're not the Blake I thought you were, but I'm willing to give it a shot kind of a thing, too. And it was just so sequel baity. I was like, so sequel baity. Especially since, I forgot to mention it, but she and her brother Tyler had been living with a boy, like squatting together as friendlies, named Michael, who she has a semi-crush on. They kind of have a relationship, but not quite a full-on romantic relationship, based on circumstances that happen in the story. And so it's like so sequel baity because it's like, here's this unresolved love triangle for you. Read the next book to find out what happens. And I don't know if there actually is a sequel or not. I haven't looked, but I was like, I don't like sequel baiting. But yeah, otherwise, yeah. Again, I did enjoy this book. It was pretty fun overall. Lots of good climaxes and story going to it. I would recommend it. I think as a sort of light sci-fi, not super intense into that. There are a few things that I've kind of mentioned in this. Also, her flashbacks to her life before all just kind of come out of nowhere and don't really add super much to the story. And some of the time it's things that she's briefly mentioned in passing already, and then later on goes into the actual memory of it. And I'm like, you didn't really need to go over this twice, and especially in this fashion. Just either give me the memory or give me the little spiel that it tells me the information I need and I'm good. I don't need both, but a few little minor writing things. Otherwise, it was a pretty good book, and I would recommend it, especially if you can get the book on tape form. It was quite lovely to listen to in my car while I was driving to work. But anyways, I just wanted to give a quick summation of this book, give that little review. Hope I see you guys all again soon. And this is the Umlaut Harper signing out.